All right, everyone, we appear to now be actually live. It's time for just some general political banter. I will be looking through the live chat. Let me for a moment here make sure that my other video feed, I got the other computer on. It's like great to have two of them. But watching myself in double is a little bit weird. I will be mainly paying attention for those who are already here to live chat for the purpose of questions and commentary and stuff like that. But I also wanted to get to a few issues. For instance, right now everyone talking about Antifa in Portland, the shit with Andy NGO there. For those not aware, Antifa showed up and did what it always does, which is, brutalize people. It's funny because Becca Lewis of the Data Society, the one that put out the main hit piece on a bunch of YouTubers, myself included, in the wake of the Sargon Spencer debate there, the one I was part of, they did this hit piece report, which had, poor sources and didn't make a lot of sense. It appears that Lewis is definitely in support of Antifa violence, considering her commentary on Twitter. It's funny because you can see the cringiest of cartoons and commentary there if you want. By the way, YouTube in the future is going to be discontinuing this kind of thing, Hangouts. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I really want to press BitChute to have general live streaming. I know that they're testing it now with InfoWars, Ray said. But it'd be nice to be able to use that. Because, I mean, I don't want to get a Twitch channel. I know there's a huge audience there. And then DLive is like, okay, maybe. I've got an account, I think, there, if I remember correctly. But in the future, YouTube will be almost certainly getting rid of live Hangouts. Certainly multi-person calls, it's phasing out fairly soon. And in the future, it's probably going to phase out Hangouts altogether, which means YouTube will no longer have live streaming, except, and I'm sure that this is the case, for like TV channel stuff like CNN and Fox, bullshit like that. So now that there are almost 300 people watching, I don't expect it to be as many people as usual. You should share out the link to this video because otherwise people will never get notified of it. I've definitely been censored in a more direct sense by YouTube. It used to be, for a while things had slowed down, but it was because the priority creators that priority creator status originally meant simply that if you tried to flag a channel, like Jimmy Kimmel or CNN, it wouldn't go through. It was basically a layer of protection for corporate users to prevent them from getting fucked by the algorithm. It allows the algorithm to bypass them for purposes of flagging for the most part. Now it promotes their content directly, so you're not likely to see me on related videos for the most part, which means that naturally channel growth is slowed down. Viewership is up. Watch time is way up, like more competitive than ever, but the number of new people subscribing is lower. I have a feeling that YouTube is also randomly unsubscribing people from channels, and it's not just mine. I've seen the great slowdown affect other people as well. But I'm going to be, again, for those who are just joining, I will be paying attention. Yeah, by the way, I'm wearing shorts at the moment because it is, that's why I don't have my jacket on. It's finally hot out. I will be reading through chat a little bit during my banter here. So I'm going to take a look at the chat really quick if anyone have had any questions or commentary or anything like that. Yeah. Would you go on the, from aesthetic, would you go on the Ghost Politics show? A good question. Yeah, absolutely. And he is aware of me. I had talked about him before. He actually mentioned me because I was shitposting in his chat drunkenly one night. It was pretty funny. It was hilarious. Where do you see YouTube 1 year from now? By Kenny Lauderdale. By the way, slow mode is on at the moment. I hope it's doing well. I mean, if they were to reverse some of the latest changes they made, even if they had the priority creator thing going on, people like me would still be able to grow. We'd be able to find new audiences. But if the site, isn't allowing us to actually grow, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is basically and start investing more time and resources and other things. Like I would rather, ultimately, this is also a form of income for a lot of people. They're going to do their other thing preferentially, whatever other thing they happen to be doing. And if they're phasing out, trust me, if they phase out live streaming altogether, all those people that can't get ad revenue and rely on super chats, they're fucked. Matt and Blonde are fucked. Lionel does a lot of live stuff. He'd be fucked. I personally think that that's a bad thing. And it's not just political creators. It's hitting everybody on the platform who happens to be independent. And that's why I say this is not a political issue. It's an issue of corporate censorship attempting to rob money from independent people to give to the legacy media and our corporate competitors because they're the ones that pump money into these sites with ads, and so they feel beholden to them. And they don't want to deal with CNN writing another hit piece about how YouTube is so edgy and so wrong and so awful. They've lost their will to fight. They've gone from basically the older style of Gen X thinking, which is, that's what built Silicon Valley from the ground up, to the new sellout Gen X thinking, unfortunately, that's been very corporatized. It's turning into MTV, essentially. And again, even though slow mode is on, with this many people watching, it's going to be difficult for me to target individual comments to actually answer them. I'll answer a few more general questions. Let's just sort of scroll through here. Do you see presidential candidates having a debate with YouTubers as the moderators in the near future? By Derek Smith. No, that'll never happen, because all of the legacy media groups have been rubbing elbows with these politicians for a long time. You may see like what you saw in, what election? It was 2008. Mike Gravel, who, by the way, is technically running now. Mike Gravel actually gave a live streamed interview, a podcast style, from a kid's dorm room at one point. He was a Democratic candidate then and now. He's the one that did that rock ad where he just stares at the camera and tosses it in the water. So technically, but if you mean mainline candidates, like is Trump going to allow Stéphane Malnou to be a debate moderator? No, that's unfortunately not going to happen. It should. It'd be more efficient. It'd be more interesting. It'd certainly be more fair, but no, it's unfortunately not going to happen. Yeah. Let's see. Cole Harrison, will you sing on one of my black progressive metal songs? I don't think that I can really do metal vocals. I did like, Antichrist Superstar, but I mean, crust style vocals, like the more punky side of things. Yeah. But I mean, as far as doing black metal, that's a little bit of a different ball feel. I sort of grew out of black metal. I'm not, saying, black metal sucks. I still like it, but I don't seek it out as much anymore. I don't know. I don't have nostalgia for the 90s or anything, but some of the rock and metal from the 90s, I think, is more my style. And stuff before, like I like Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath more than like the later, like the 80s sort of metal side of it. But yeah, I wanted to get into some more Banter. I'll go back to chat in a little bit now with fucking 1,000 people watching. YouTube tries to suppress me, and yet, people still pay attention to the stream. I think it's a good thing, by the way. Probably more entertaining, and definitely you're going to get better commentary than you will from, from the lame stream. I wanted to talk a little bit more, though, about the Democratic field. But first, with the caveat, of course, not being a Democrat, looking at the field and saying, most of these people are unhinged. They're insane. Like, the things that they're proposing are nuts. Like, for instance, let's go through a laundry list of things that are being proposed. Joe Biden, the front runner, who's supposedly the sane one, is the one that doesn't know enough about guns and says, like, well, just get a shotgun for, for home defense or whatever, making no sense in the process. It's like he would have a problem, I guess, with like a .22 handgun that carried too many bullets in a magazine. But if you have a shotgun, like a combat style shotgun with a 30-round drum firing dragon's breath ammo, he doesn't consider that to be a threat. So clearly this man is unqualified to even speak on this, but that's, most of the Democrats. I think, isn't Delaney kind of sane? Well, I don't know very much about him. He was the one that challenged Sanders, who's like my universal health care, which means more taxes, talking about how even Vermont wouldn't greenlight that under Shumlin. He is correct fundamentally. That did happen. Sanders sidestepped that question. People who said that he did well at the debate, yes, if you didn't pay too much attention to him not answering any of the questions he was asked. Other than that, yeah, he did fine. He had a decent stage presence for someone who's approaching octogenarian status. But is that really a compliment to pay him? You look at the front runners, the top 3 Democrats, respectively. Biden is, if I remember, 75. Sanders is 77. Warren is, if I remember correctly, 72. Their top 3 candidates, the 3 most viable, likely to win people in the field, are all technically elderly. And then number 4 is kind of Buttigieg at this point. I think that the recent poll by Politico is a fluke. I don't think Harris rose up to 12. I would say Buttigieg arguably is a bit ahead of her, even though his aggregate right now is lower. I think he has the momentum more than she does over the longer term. He's only in his 30s. And then Harris is sort of like the average aged mid-50s. I think she's 56 or 57. So she'd be like the average age for a candidate. The amount of baggage, though, that she has is terrible. The lies about her, not wanting to answer about her prosecutorial record. That wouldn't be good for inner city turnout. Yeah, I incarcerated a bunch of young black people for selling drugs and put them in for truancy and shit like that in inner city neighborhoods. I'm a wonderful person. I love prison reform. Vote for me. They're going to vote for Trump before they vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has terrible ideas. Then she lies about smoking weed and listening to Tupac while in the same breath talking about all the drug dealers she put away, which means anyone back, more than 20 years ago who had any drugs at all, basically. You had 2 joints. Obviously, you meant to sell one of them because nobody needs 2 joints. Therefore, you are a dealer. You're going away for 5-10 years and shit like that. She was a tough on crime liberal. And then, again, Beto O'Rourke, who was in 4th or 5th place in some of the early polls when he got in, he's dropped off the face of the earth. You've got a better likelihood of actually seeing the Yang Gang have a candidate than you have of Beto ever being in politics again. I don't even think he'll be able to run for local politics. He'll be lucky if he can go back and be mayor of San Antonio or wherever the hell he lives now. He'll be very lucky. But if you look at the field, you've got to understand that if a person has bottomed out to the point where the polls are showing, and I understand individual polls, don't look at them, look at the aggregate. If they're below 2% in the aggregate on RCP of a poll of polls, recent polls, they are no longer viable. They've bottomed out. Nothing that they do, short of all the frontrunners dying or dropping out, is going to allow them to be nominated. You have 5 viable people in the race at this point. Technically, Cory Booker is just above the threshold, but is 3% much better than 2? Not really. You've technically got 5 people that are viable. These are the 5 people that there's a 99.999% chance one of these people will be the nominee. Joe Biden. Do I think Joe Biden can win? No. He's too old. He makes mistakes. He made another big mistake at a fundraiser in Seattle just the other day, making a joke about it. To celebrate Pride Week, he's like, well, back a few years ago, somebody could make a joke about a gay waiter and it would be fine. And then people in the crowd were booing him. They were upset because they're like, no, you're in Seattle, Mr. Biden. Here, nobody really had 10 years ago, nobody had a fucking problem with it, which is also true. If he had said this like a Vermont crowd, he could have said 20 years ago and been wrong. Already people didn't fucking give a shit for the most part. He's completely out of touch. So he's trying, again, there's a difference between national politics and state and local politics. Biden has trouble with this concept, apparently. Other people have had trouble with this concept. The Democrats especially, they're trying to manage a far-left federal platform with the fact that there are vulnerable Democrats from the House and Senate from red districts, essentially areas that would normally be Republican, but they've got blue dog Democrats holding them, states and localities. They've got to fight on both ends, therefore, in an increasingly democratized world. So there's Joe Biden. He makes mistakes. He's the mistake maker, and he's an old man. Move on to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders can't even captivate the left anymore. He's been out-leftisted by other candidates. He's also even older, and he makes mistakes too. You look at his stage presence. He's not the same Sanders he was in the past. He's just not as energetic. I don't think that he has the energy to even make it through the primaries. Elizabeth Warren, arguably of the top 5, the most viable at this point. Like again, Buttigieg is a long shot because he's still down there in the mid-single digits. He's viable. He did well at the first debate. He didn't get wiped off the face of the earth, but if he doesn't do something to shoot ahead like Gabbard arguably has in the last debate by basically using identity politics, but she did, at least for the leftists that vote in the Democratic primaries. If he doesn't, he will begin to drop down. Elizabeth Warren has topped out in the double digits. She's at 12 to 15, somewhere around there. She's a bit younger than Biden. She's a bit younger than Sanders, even though she's still, I think, 71 or 2. And even though she's a fake progressive, her big baggage is a little bit lesser than maybe Biden's gaffes that he makes in a contemporary sense, or Sanders' lack of energy. Hers are mostly her lying about her ethnicity. I think that even though I believe that would keep her from winning against Trump if she was the nominee, and I do believe that, I think she would lose, it would allow her to be able to outcompete some of these others at the top and their baggage. Her baggage is less bad than theirs. The baggage of being out-lefted, if you're Bernie Sanders, it's pretty bad, especially when you can't redeem yourself with an energetic campaign. Biden's got the worst gaffes that he makes. And then Kamala Harris, of course, with her tough on crime past, it's a little bit difficult. Biden also sharing that problem to a lesser extent with busing and stuff like that. Buttigieg, he doesn't have the baggage. What he needs is the momentum. As long as he stays in the 5th place slot, he technically stays viable, but he could drop off the face of the earth. And do I think Cory Booker really has made himself viable with an arguably good debate performance just because he challenged Biden a couple times? Not really, because others were doing that. If you wanted to win that slot, basically you've got Kamala Harris. Now, I know a lot of you are either real or ironic fans of Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard. and I hear a bunch of shit about how wonderful they are. I don't like Yang. I think he's crazy. Gabbard, I like. The problem is, again, she's not viable. She's dropped off the face of the earth. And I know what you'll say. Well, that's because she didn't get exposure. The media shafted her. Yeah, absolutely. Thus showing why the legacy media is a threat to our democracy. You could have a sane Democratic candidate there in that upper rung. You know, maybe she replaces, she replaces Harris or Sanders or something. You could have someone there with military experience, you know, not completely out in left field economically, understands things a little bit more. You could have her there, but I just don't think that it's in the cards. In the future, though, I think she has set herself up for a continuation in politics. I think the fact that she's built a core grassroots fan base in the next election could go well for her. She'd still be very young. She'd be like 42, 43. By presidential standards, extremely young. If our first female president was someone like Tulsi Gabbard, it would be better than if it was someone who ascends there because, like if Sarah Palin had ascended there, if McCain had won. It'd be better than a Hillary Clinton, a dynastic person who rode coattails. It would be nice for someone who was self-led to be the first female president because then there wouldn't be a bunch of kickback. But yeah, I mean, no, she's not going to be the nominee. One of the top 5 currently will almost certainly be the nominee. I'm going to go back to chat here from Eggs. Has been rambling for like 15 minutes. People telling me to run for office. You know, that happens frequently. I wouldn't want to relocate though. I like where I am right now. I know I talk shit about Vermont and stuff. It has a high tax rate, shitty weather. Every winter I think of leaving. I don't know. I'd be more likely to move to New Hampshire than DC, in all honesty. Look through it. I like her, but she wants to take our guns. Well, yeah, but that's every Democrat. Is there anyone up there on stage who doesn't support increased anti-gun legislation? The legislation we've already got is already unconstitutional. We should see a Republican Party fighting back. Trump's the only one doing it, Trump and Rand. And then Trump does the bump stock ban bullshit, which will probably run afoul of a court decision in the future. Yeah. Would you be interested in another piece of merch, a garden gnome styled after your likings? No, because here's the thing. I'm trying to keep the merchandise. By the way, there is a link in the description. You can go to my site and buy merchandise. But the thing is, the original idea was to sell mugs, which is definitely the big seller because, you know, I drink coffee anyway. Spoon clank is like the main thing. I do drink coffee. This is Black Rifle. By the way, Jury is no longer still out on its caffeine content. It is more caffeinated, it seems, than normal coffee. It's got more kick to it. I did notice it this morning, which, by the way, is great. I think it's wonderful. But I'm trying to keep the offerings to a minimum. I think when you start selling lawn gnomes and floor mats and weird shit like that and stuff, it smacks of selling out to me. I know people have been saying for years, well, you know, sell mugs, sell hats or something. Okay, well, a few items is one thing, but having like, I don't want to become like, you know, I know it already feels sometimes like I'm more Styxhexenhammer than I am my real biological sort of real world self. And I'm comfortable with that because, you know, it gives you success. It is fun. I have the best job in the world. But I do want to retain a little bit of myself. And like, you know, I don't go to people's merch stores and say, oh, wow, I need a lapel pin. I need a hat. You know, it's like I'm trying to keep it to minimum. I like to think that people like to get something physical in you know, response for patronizing someone. Certainly, that's what I've done with my books over time, editing and authoring. But there's a limitation to that. Like, I'm not going to sell T-shirts because I'm known for not really, you know, liking shirts as much. Right now, it's funny because when the weather is warmer, I've started to wear them more. By the way, common misconception is that I've started wearing shirts more because of Owen Benjamin saying something about it. I wasn't aware of that fact. I just started. I mean, I have cool shirts. I want to flash, you know, my logo and Satan and, you know, the Herod Jolt shirt, which I'm very, very fond of. Maybe I'll wear that one tomorrow. I'll be funny. From Quid, if Trump invaded Iran, would you vote for Tulsi? I won't get a chance to vote for Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think Trump is going to invade Iran. Anyway, Trump has been, generally speaking, a pro-peace president. Trump is not a warmonger, it seems. I opposed his Syria strikes. But if he invaded Iran, I would protest the fact that he invaded Iran and encourage others to do so. That would not magically make me receptive to the Democrats. Like, Tulsi Gabbard won't be their nominee. It'll probably be a Biden or a Sanders or something. Some of these people have been pro-war. Like Elizabeth Warren, she's not some peacenik hippie or something. She's a career politician. She's been in there half of forever, lies about things, and is a total opportunist. Joe Biden, vice president of one of the most assassination-happy regimes and one of the most opaque anti-investigative journalism regimes in human history. You know, who am I supposed to vote for? I would probably just stay home. I'd vote for the Libertarian Party, maybe. But then the Libertarian Party has problems, too. They don't seem to understand the differentiation between libertarianism versus authoritarianism and this straw man that sometimes they seem to be putting up. And they might be doing this to attract people on the marginal left, which is fine, but it's kind of dishonest. That versus like nationalism in the generic sense. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm thinking, you could have a civic nationalist regime that was completely libertarian if you wanted to. You could have a night watchman state that was nonetheless nationalistic. People would tend to be more patriotic, I would think, in a civic sense, at least in a libertarian country anyway. You know, they'd be bound together more by voluntary action than by this sort of statist identity. I would think that would tend to breed nationalism over time. It would just be a libertarian variant of it. Just saying. Not lots of stuff. Is Iran a good democracy? No. No, Iran's not really. Well, I mean, they have a voting system that is generally adhered to. But at the same time, it's in a representative fashion, yes, but at the same time, you've got the religious authorities involved also. And just the fact that I oppose their style of governance doesn't mean that I have a stick up my ass about Iran. I don't even think about Iran. I don't want to bomb Iran or invade Iran, or I don't even care if there are sanctions on Iran unless they're fucking around with our interests in the region, which I think is acceptable. Look, the U.S. does trade all around the world. U.S. vessels have to be protected. Trade lines have to be protected, not just from pirates, but by states that would seek to fuck around with them. Otherwise, yes, it can cause war. A little bit of preventative action is good as long as it doesn't involve military endeavors. Otherwise, I don't have any problem with Iran. I don't care if they do have nuclear centrifuges or something. If other people in the region are pissed off at Iran, let them handle it. It's not really our fight. That's Central Asia. That has nothing to do with the United States, has nothing to do with the hemisphere or the Western world in general. And Iran doesn't have projective capabilities. Its navy is half-assed. It's decent, but it's, you know, it's a green water navy basically. And then their air forces, it's okay, but mostly it's last gen stuff. Their anti-missile system, their anti-air and anti-missile systems are the best because they got those latest gen models, I think, from Russia recently. I think Syria has some too. Doesn't seem to help them much. They never deploy them. It's like Israel bombed Damascus the other day. I don't know. Is there a response? Who knows? Get banned, you hate-filled Islamophobic free speech extremist. Yes, I'm assuming satirizing some of the left-wingers that have a problem with me. There's a lot of them. Still looking at 2,600 people watching. Normally it'd be like 5,000 or 6,000, but YouTube, you know, algorithmically suppresses things. That's just sort of the way that it is. Also, the time of day isn't 100% ideal, I think, at the moment. Yeah. Just let Saudi and Iran fight each other. Well, Saudi Arabia is not capable of fighting Iran. Saudi Arabia has trouble with the Houthis. Nobody really worries about the Saudi Arabians invading. What they worry about is Saudi Arabia has so much money, they can get other people to attack you. That's really the problem. Yeah. By the way, I've got back here, this is fresh chamomile from the garden. Smells really good once it's dried. It's drying just fine. I've got a shit ton of it over there in the window. They say that you're supposed to put it in a dry, dark place to dry it. I don't think that that's a good idea. I tried that once and it smelled a little bit musty, actually. So I just put it in the sun. I realized that might degrade, you know, the sedative action of it a little bit. But it's fresh chamomile, so it's going to be stronger anyway. So I don't really have a problem. Oh, yeah, from the Daily Review. You said on Tim's video, Timcast, of course, Tim Pool, Timothy Poulsen, that you don't see conflict as inevitable. Still feel the same given the violence in Portland. Yeah, this has been happening forever. The idea that Antifa or left-wing violence towards random groups of people is a new phenomenon, or even more, you know, common outside of certain urban areas, I think is false. Portland has been like this for a long time. The real problem is that the response has been muted from local officials. Like, they refuse to, sort of back Antifa down and start arresting people. They'll get involved like only once violence spirals out of control. 10 minutes later, they jump in. And the Portland police, many years ago, I remember when there were anti-war protests, and I think this was Portland. This was during the Bush administration. I remember seeing it at the time. This was maybe 2007 or a little bit before. I can remember that there were anti-war protests there, and these were not largely Antifa. They were just standard liberals. There were a lot of people waving like the hit the peace signs and doing the love bead and flowers thing. And the Portland police came in and started cracking skulls and gassing people with tear gas and spraying them with hoses and sicking the dogs on them, so to speak, with fucking Bull Connor mode. Now, though, the Portland police, for some inexplicable reason, now that you've got mobs of people that are fairly clearly easy to identify, it's, hey, these people are wearing masks and holding billy clubs, and they're all in black with communist logos all over them. They don't get involved. They stand back and let nature run its course. I'm sitting there thinking that's the worst possible thing to do. You wouldn't have this problem if the police were allowed to do their job, but the city officials apparently won't allow that to happen. In most cities, though, the police will respond. In most situations, like, why, can I ask you something? Although I strongly support the right to free expression, to go where you want, to protest as you want, and to be left alone and not harmed, is it a good idea to get together, unless it is a very large group of people? Is it a good idea to get together for a relatively small protest in an area known for significant Antifa activity, where several hundred Antifa members may show up? Is it a good idea to go with therefore only a few hundred people to hold a rally? Probably not. If it's thousands of people, probably it's not a problem. Antifa starts shit, what are they going to do? All you got to do is resist, you fight back, and they run off like little pussies. But Antifa likes to come in and try to pick people off in small groups and then brutalize them. It's not a good idea to do that. Pick some outlying area that they're less likely to show up for. And then of course, the police really should get involved, but it's obvious they're reluctant to do so. They don't care if Portland burns to the ground, I guess. So maybe people should pick a different venue for their protests, for their rallies and so forth. Just let Portland be, Antifa's little sanctuary city or something like that. Not like Portland is going to improve anyway. Yeah, but no, I don't believe that conflict is inevitable. It's been happening anyway, to answer the question. It's more televised now. I think that the reason that people think that it's more there is specifically because everyone now has their phones pointed at it. So it seems to be more common. It's more amplified when it happens. 20 years ago, something like this happens. You might see it on TV, maybe Drudge Report time I think existed. Yeah. They talk about it or something, but for the most part, there was a separation between you and the events of hours at least. Now it's seconds. Now there's 10 live streams up of the violence as it's happening and 1,000 different bits of analytical tweeting and video and shit going on within 10 minutes. And so it seems more prevalent than it is. And Tim, I like the dude. He's smart, but he's exaggerating the amount and the rise of political violence. The left, by the way, has been doing this. Antifa and these groups justify their bullshit. They justify their violent inclinations and ignorant tendencies by concocting an imaginary army of fascists that they're supposedly fighting. They're not. They're attacking normal everyday people. Most of the casualties, most of the people getting milkshaked or rocks thrown at them or beaten to the ground or the bike lock or whatever, most of these people are not even ethno-nationalistic, let alone fascistic. Most of these are normal people. They're routine conservatives. Hell, some of them are probably total liberals. I keep expecting them to accidentally bean another Antifa member who just wasn't in uniform on that day. But they have to, in order to justify their violence, they lie to people and say there's an invisible army of fascists that are rising up. These people in MAGA, oh my God, this dude has a cross on. He's obviously a fascist. This person says they voted for Trump. This person's got a GOP bumper sticker. This person platforms extremism. They've got a YouTube channel and they don't use it to nonstop harangue like we do about people who are on the right. That's what they do, but there's no actual rising up of mythical Nazis. What happened is that idiots like Becca Lewis looked at 4chan shitposting and extrapolated that to real life, made their hit piece on behalf of the legacy media because they, in their profession as gadfly yellow journalists, they're no longer making as much of a wave, of a splash as before. They're not making as much money because they're not getting as much attention. So they have to justify their bullshit. That's all it is. People are getting a little bit flighty. They're getting a little bit worried about things that aren't really problems. Yeah, by the way, Antifa will be violent when they gather in large enough numbers. That's been happening anyway. Yeah, sometimes people in jackboots with swastikas and shit stand around Sieg Heil. It happens. It's just no more common than it used to be. Nobody ever thought the world was ending 10 years ago when half a dozen Black Bloc members showed up to throw a Molotov at the police. They just said, hey, it's thugs being thugs. Get over it. Just the way that it is. Give it 10 years, I bet things will be a lot calmer too. All right. See, there's I'm going through the live chat to see if there are any other good questions here. Yeah. What are your thoughts on money laundering? Well, money is dirty, so putting it through the washing machine might be a good idea, but you could destroy the bills. So I'm not being joking. I don't really have any thoughts on it. Paul Manafort did a lot of that, I guess. And that was the only crime that anyone associated with the Trump campaign ever really committed. Very funny since it was back in the Bush era. Is Trump's body possessed by an ancient Egyptian chaos god? No. But memetics is real. Somebody asking why there are no mods. Because I don't believe in authoritarianism. I don't really care. I don't care if people say weird shit in the chat. I don't care if people post nonsense. Most of it gets filtered out automatically, which I half agree with. I should be able to choose more parameters for chat, like as an individual who would be making a live stream. I should be able to do that, but YouTube won't let me. So basically, you either just sort of let it be the Wild West, which is what I try to do, or you have to have a bunch of channel mods. And how do you know? How do you who's going to guard the fox that's guarding the hen house? In that case, I refuse to let anyone else moderate my channel in any capacity. It's never going to happen. No. Why are Democrats so dumb? It's no, most people are dumb. It's just that right now we're focused more on that because they're having a clown car primary. It's like we already know who the Republican will be. It's Trump. Trump survived the last primary. He gets elected. He's the president. He'll be carrying the banner for the Republicans. Trump is not dumb. He's very strategic. He plays dumb a little bit. He does it way better than Bush ever did, by the way. But for the most part, yes, it's 4D chess. I believe that Scott Adams is correct. When I look at his actions and stuff, it seems like if you sort of put on your thinking cap and you think, how could Trump be manipulating people by doing this, making it look like he's being a loser at the time? How can he turn this into a victory? And then you say, okay, here's a couple ways. All you have to do is wait a while, and usually one of them ends up being what ends up happening. Like with the Iran switcheroo. Trump's maneuver on Iran, of course, was to give Iran a way out. They had attacked a U.S. drone. All of the Boltonites were like, Trump, you got to act. You got to attack Iran. There have to be reprisals. Sanctions won't work. Trump said, oh, well, I think maybe just some general was being stupid that day. Some newcomer general didn't know his job. He was being ignorant. He accidentally fired on it thinking it was over Iran. And so they made a huge mistake. Basically, someone was really being dumb. They took that and they used that as an explanation, thus staving off the possibility of U.S. strikes. Trump added to that by pretending that he was actually willing to use U.S. strikes, but called them back at the last moment. He did. He saved hundreds of lives. He also saved a lot of money. You know how much money it costs when we bomb things? It's a lot of moolah. More than the drone cost probably would have been what it cost to attack whatever sites they were going to attack in Iran, and it would have brought us to the brink of a Cuban Missile Crisis style situation. Trump chose to avoid that. He showed masterful strategic patience. He got no credit from the left. He got some credit from Republicans, but they were all chomping at the bit. All of the McCainites and the Boltonites, they're like, oh my God, finally we've got it. We're going to attack Iran. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be like 10,000, bombs falling and children dying and mothers crying. And these people get off on that because they're a bunch of chicken hawks. They're people who never served in combat, but they really like the idea of it as long as they can watch it from the comfort of their living room or their den or on their phone, live stream bombing of Damascus, bombing of Tehran or something. They're a bunch of morons. They, if you put them in battle, they'd piss their pants probably. It's funny because it's like that moron who made jokes about the U.S. government having nukes now. The government should confiscate all guns. Which one was that? Swalwell? I almost think that it was the one that's running now, actually, if I remember correctly. I think it was him, one of the Democrats. I think it was Swalwell, and he was joking about that. It's like he gets a hard-on for this genocidal sort of rhetoric, and yet he's worried about gun owners being violent. Now, he's just a chicken hawk. He would never raise a finger to disarm anyone because he'd be too much of a coward. Yeah, people say, yeah, it was Swalwell. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Funnily enough, Swalwell, one of the few people at the fucking Democratic debate that made any sense. As long as he avoided the issue of guns or anything else and just stood with his rhetoric against other candidates, he actually was more well-spoken, which is sad for the Democrats. My goodness. I don't want a President Swallow. President Swallow. Hey, Styx, you are being impersonated on Telegram. Just a heads up, by Palpatine. I don't know. I don't have a Telegram account. I don't even know what Telegram is. If someone's impersonating me, just be aware that it's not me. That's happened before. I had one time, I can't remember the user, some older lady had made a video about me indicating that she believed that I had like said weird shit to her on a website. And I had never heard of her or the website. And she was like, I want to, I'm a subscriber and stuff, but I want to know what's going on. And I looked into it and somebody had been impersonating me, I guess. And that is a problem. But by the way, this is why I have a Parler account. It's not that you use it preferentially. The only thing I aggregate there is my BitChute links. By the way, link in the description. You should definitely subscribe to my BitChute channel because eventually YouTube's not going to have live streaming, but BitChute very well might. So, for the election, YouTube's no longer going to have live streams probably by the election. And I think that's by design in part. BitChute, meanwhile, will be more than happy to host those things with P2P technology, which makes it hyper efficient and a lot faster potentially if a lot of people are watching something. I think it's wonderful. I love BitChute. By the way, Black Pigeon Speaks, I think, is just about neck and neck with me and might have surpassed me in subscribers there. So the Spoon Clank Army now has two, opponents there, the Liberalists and the Pigeonites. We got to do something about that. We need more spoons in our army, Clank in solidarity. We need more caffeine up in this bitch. But what the fuck was I talking about? Something about live streaming, I think. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. That happens sometimes. I'm in a good mood today, in case you can't tell. It's good to be live streaming again. Is your mastermind going to work? A MasterCard going to work if you vote Trump? That's actually an interesting point because there is fiscal deplatforming now. I'm interested. Would people on the left be okay if like banks asked people their political affiliation and like ban them for wrong? Like if Chase sees that you donated to the Trump campaign, like if they kicked you off randomly, would that be okay to people on the left? I think for a lot of them, unfortunately, I think they would go along with it. Really, like lambs to the slaughter, they're being led. Bunch of goofies. Is Snowden a hero, a traitor, or something else? He is a patriot. He's not a hero. It would have been more heroic to be self-sacrificing, to dig even deeper into the material, get caught in the process. But he's no traitor. He was telling people the truth that they needed to know. He felt that he had a conscientious sort of spat in his mind where he thought things are going on that shouldn't be. They violate the Constitution. People don't know they're going on. I'm going to let them know. You can think what you want about the fallout from that, but I do think that the American people fundamentally have a right to know when their government is breaking the Fourth Amendment and spying on them with the NSA surveillance and so forth. Yes, I support Snowden. And I don't care that he ran off to China, now he's in Russia. Who cares? I don't give a fuck where in the world Snowden goes. He didn't do anything wrong. Why would I give a fuck? By the way, if Snowden had struck now, in the Trump campaign, these same liberals would be cheering him, saying he was a wonderful person. Oh, yeah, go Snowden, yay! Exposing the evils of the Trump campaign. But it was Obama who was president at the time. Oh, no. Obama's such a great man. What an unpatriotic piece of shit Snowden is. And then the Republicans do the same thing. Like some of the neocon Republicans that have started to say Assange man bad, like Swedish man bad. They loved him for a while there when he was doing stuff during Obama, and they also hated him again before that during the Bush administration. Same fucking shit, different asshole. Yeah. Why no video on Andy, NGO, and Antifa? Video coming tomorrow, by the way, to Guy Fortney. Is Marianne Williamson a viable dark horse candidate? No. but I hope she stays in the race for a long time, because the weird shit she talks about, I mean, it's even weird by Democrat standards. For the 10 people that know who she is, because I'm sure that most people still don't, she's the hippie trippy candidate of the Democrats. She's like the actual liberal up on stage, like the liberal of the 60s sort of thing, like the hippie mom sort of thing. The kind that gives their kids like vegan sushi and soy supplements in their lunch at school and stuff, and tells them, you know, don't you dare eat the chicken burger, it's murder. Something like that. Oh my God. Williamson, the fact that she was one of the less insane people up on stage too. Again, the Democratic Party's nuts. Do you think AOC will be reelected by the Kentucky Mama Monica? No clue. I'm not really keeping up with the polling. The last I saw, she was slipping significantly. But the thing is, she would have to face, you know, somebody, because of the district there being so blue, no Republican's going to stop her. She would have to face another Democrat. The neolibs would have to knock her off. And I don't know if they're willing to do that, because she has such a large platform that she would call them out. She would say, oh, the party's run by greedy people. We need to be better than the Republicans and stuff. She could whip people up into a frenzy on a national level and make it very difficult for the Democratic Party. And that's what they're worried about. You can tell the Feinsteins and Pelosi's and Clintons are worried about this, because she and Tlaib and some of these other people, Ilhan Omar, they have a very large, these are national level politicians who nonetheless are in one state or district. And so the Democrats don't dare to primary them back out, because if they do that, they'll raise a stink on a national stage, and they're looking to the presidential election. We don't want the trouble. We'll just deal with them. Maybe next time around, we'll kick them back out. I would expect AOC has a more than 50-50 chance of being reelected, simply because she's not going to get primaried by the Democrats. She'll run unopposed. They'll tolerate her. They'll say, yeah, she's baggage. Yeah, she's nuts. But ultimately, there's nothing we can do, because she's become too popular. We allowed her in the first place. Big fucking mistake. And by the way, that's hilarious to me, because then she's the gift that she keeps on giving. It'll be funny to see Cortez get old, and she'll get even more crazy. She'll get old and she'll sell out. You know, that'd be funny. Will you discuss Wicca and its different branches? I think I already made a video on that a long time ago in the occult playlist. I can't remember, actually, to tell the truth. Did I? Somebody go through the occult playlist and like look up Wicca or something. I don't know. I think I did. I know that I've mentioned hedge Wicca a few times. That's the only kind I find particularly palatable. I think it's more like nature, grow herbs and cauldrons and shit. It's more theatrical, I think. Or I mean less theatrical, more pragmatic, like potion sort of bullshit. That's the sort of stuff I'm into. Do you use mods for Fallout? Yeah, but nothing that affects most of the gameplay. Like I've got the Touch of Green one, because the natural textures in the game are just a little bit too bleak, actually. Like it's not even realistic. You know, hundreds of years after nuclear war, yes, there would still be some grass around. There would be a few leaves here and there. So I use that. And I use the one that changes the Minutemen into an actual faction, as opposed to a bunch of weirdos running around with shitty weapons and no armor. Because otherwise, there's literally no reason to side with them. They're useless. I mean, they can't do jack shit. They don't even level like everyone else in the game. I play a lot of Fallout 4. I like it. I know some people are like, well, you idiot. Fallout New Vegas was better. Fallout 3 is better. It's the worst Fallout. Well, that's your opinion, man. Yeah, I've got the Minuteman flag behind me for a reason. How do you think things will play out for the Democrats after Trump takes 2020, if he takes 2020? Don't be so certain. I think he has a good chance of it, but I mean, we have to wait till he has an opponent. We have to wait. I mean, he could have a health issue too. That's always possible. A war could break out. There are too many unknown factors this far out. The game has barely begun. Lionel the other day, Lionel Nation, by the way, you should subscribe to him, said, well, the race has barely begun. They haven't even passed the first hurdle. He's correct. I can't really make a solid prediction about how this goes. The only thing I can say is that so far, no single Democrat has stood out enough to be a viable challenger. No Democrat up on that stage has that wow factor that Trump had. Or even like the slicked back sort of used car salesman appeal of Marco Rubio, for Christ's sake. None of them have any real appeal. The closest thing they have is Buttigieg. He's not even 40. That raises questions about viability. Age is a huge issue in this election. Buttigieg and Gabbard are two decent candidates, but they're still in their 30s. Meanwhile, you have all these old fogies, no disrespect to anyone watching this that's over 70. At some point, health becomes a potential issue for someone in a very high stress position where you might have to wake up at 3 a.m. because there's been a missile launch. No, I don't want someone as old as Bernie Sanders responding to that, especially if they're a nutty socialist. It's just not down my alley. Do you think America will lurch far to the left after Trump leaves office? No, I don't think that it will. I think that in this paradigm shift, you've seen the rise of more of a bipolar situation. The right is a bit more far right, more populistic. I understand that for some of you, you don't think that's true, but that's because you are on the right. And the left has gone really far left. Then there's the alienated core of people like the old establishment that can't really govern anymore, at least not ably. And this is sort of ripping the political situation apart. At some point, there will be another sort of flip over, and one of the sides will move, I think, towards the center. My guess is it'll be the left, and they'll become like party of JFK, and then the new old left will be like all the weird socialists, the Sanders, Zistas, and the AOC fans, and they'll be the ones that are alienated. They'll essentially reform most of them and rejoin like polite society. They'll sell out according to their standards. This keeps happening. It's generational in part. Sanders doesn't want to admit it. Very funny. Yeah, nearly 4K, but no listing on YouTube Live currently broadcasting. Yes, I'm being directly suppressed by YouTube. My material can no longer enter up next in trending for the most part, and it rarely enters related videos for anyone who's not yet already subscribed. As a result, the new subscriber growth has slowed to a crawl. Viewership is up. I'm getting more views than I ever have. Viewer watch time is definitely way up. The watch time has gone up by, I think, several minutes overall, and that's the average of videos. Now, the watch time, by the way, is the biggest metric by which you look at how competitive you are. All views aren't created equal. Let's say we have you and I, whoever you are. We both make videos of exactly the same length on the same topics on YouTube, put them on. We both get 100 views. Let's say the average viewing time of my video, however long it is 4 minutes. Now let's say yours is 6 minutes. You are more competitive than me because people are paying more attention to your video per view. There's more interest in it. That, by the way, tends to coincide with more engagement, comments, shares, likes, and so forth. There's an equivalency there to some degree. Time is what we compete for. That's why the legacy media is so afraid of us. It's not, hey, you got so many subscribers. Look, a person can subscribe 20 different channels. Where are they spending their actual time? I'm very happy about the overall engagement with the content that I make. The thing is, though, it's more difficult now to attract new people. I'm growing faster on BitChute than on YouTube right now. That's a problem. And YouTube has done this because there's both passive and active censorship now on the platform. People are being willfully hidden in related videos, especially. That's a big chunk of viewership as far as new viewers go. That proportion is dropped to near zero. And then priority creators are always featured first in search. That is, if you search for something, like let's say I make a video on hash browns, and you search for hash browns, like videos from the last week, I'm going to be buried below CNN's expose on hash browns, no matter what the viewership is on my video. It used to be that it was engagement related. So if you had a large engaged audience, if you had an engaged audience, you had an advantage as well in search and related. That was how their algorithm worked. The idea was you were more engaged in, therefore, people were more interested in your stuff. That means they click ads more, they like, they share it offsite. YouTube gets more attention. It's good for YouTube as a platform. That was the whole goal. Now they've switched it around because the thing is, who got the most engagement? People like me. Who didn't get a lot of engagement? CNN. You look at CNN's Twitter account. What do you see? Now ask yourself, when you look at their tweets and the number of likes and retweets and stuff on them, why do you think they want to get rid of the liking function on Twitter or view counters for the number of people who have responded for anyone other than the person who made the tweet? Why do you think they want to hide that? It's because CNN and groups like that don't get any fan engagement because they don't have fans. They're just sort of there. Like, people use them to analyze news. Like, I have to pay attention to the legacy media a little bit so that I can analyze all the stupid shit that they say. Well, that's a view on their stuff, but I'm not engaged with their material. I don't like their material. If I interact with it at all, if I go to CNN's YouTube page, if I make a comment at all, it's to say, what a bunch of cringy bullshit. That's the way that most people work. That's why they want to hide people like me, because otherwise the priority creators club, the sellouts, the corporations and the corporate pawns, they can't compete with us. You take any half a dozen truly independent YouTubers and the kind of fan engagement we get, it's better than all of the legacy media. It's better than any of the largest legacy media networks easily, even though they've got thousands of employees. And that's just their direct employees. Then they've got, auxiliary, they got local field office sort of bullshit, their partners, their accountants and lawyers and stuff like that. Tens of thousands of people to create a product that no one really wants. Whereas one person with a webcam, yeah, look, almost 4,000 people watching the live stream, and that's after they suppress my content. So fuck it. But you should definitely join me on BitChute, because in the near future, there, and link in the description again for those not aware, they will be hosting live material. We've got it from Ray. That's something they're testing already. InfoWars, I think, already is enabled live there. Pretty soon, I'm assuming they may cut it off, like only larger creators will be able to do that, just for bandwidth purposes, which would be fine, to be better than nothing for at least now. I beg them to do that before the election, or at least before the next debate. That way I can live stream there. I would rather do it on BitChute. I'd rather get used to a different format on another site and drag people to it and keep that engagement and that growth going on a platform where I can keep growing, essentially is what it boils down to. I'll keep making content on YouTube forever. Even if it's algorithmically demoted, I don't care if the subscriber total falls day by day here on the platform. I'm still going to be using YouTube. There's no reason not to. It's still an enormous amount of engagement. It's just not the same as it was maybe a couple of years ago. That's fundamentally the problem. Yeah. Do you pay mind to Rational Wiki? No. No, because most of it's bullshit. Look at the Sargon article sometime and you'll understand. If Antifa uses acid attacks during next week's rally, do you think civil war will begin? No, but I think that they'll get beaten and they'll beat on people and they'll do what they always do. I don't think that there's a very big possibility Antifa's actually going to be dousing people with acid. If they did, that would cause a significant national response, but it wouldn't be civil war. It'd be more like, hey, the federal government start leaning on police departments to do their job. In some cases, the police chiefs don't want to do it. And in some cases, I think hopefully more often, it's city councilmen and mayors. They're like, oh, just hold back, hold the line and don't get involved. Let the Nazis and the communists beat on each other, even if it's not Nazis. The problem with Antifa is that they identify everybody as a fascist. And if they're clearly not, then they're a fascist enabler if you don't want them to go and throw punches at people. Like somebody like me, I guess I'm a fascist enabler because I think, well, the way to stop violence probably isn't throwing rocks at people, generally speaking, unless you intend to entirely wipe out an entire group of people. Generally speaking, more limited versions of violence just stoke the fires more and make you look violent, which is true because that's literally what Antifa exists to do. But no, I don't think it would lead to why wouldn't a gold standard work? Because we tried the whole gold standard thing. You can't fix the price of your currency and peg it to one thing when you can just have a fiat currency as a stand-in. It just has to be able to coexist with gold and with silver and everything else people want to invest in. The existence of the dollar is not the problem. The problem is that the government right now refuses to keep the Federal Reserve from fucking around with the currency to unlimited levels. The currency should be more sound. Other than that, having paper money makes sense. It's literally makes more sense as a medium of exchange. What are you going to do? Carry around 10 pounds of gold with you at all times to make change? Banks would have to pay out people in gold. It wouldn't work. There wouldn't be enough gold to actually cover it. The dollar would be devalued probably. It would be terrible, actually. I do think we need to audit the Fed, though. Why do you deny the God of Israel? For the same reason that I deny all the other ones. It's no different. The frog god makes more sense than Jehovah, in my opinion. I'm more Luciferian. I like Lucifer and Prometheus and Enki and the cool gods, the cosmic rebels that liberate people. Those are the cool gods. And I don't literally believe in any of them either. I mean, technically that makes me sort of an atheist, but I'm actually just apatheistic. I just don't care. Maybe there is a God. Maybe Jesus Christ really did come down and save everyone and was a magical sky dude. Okay. I have no problem with Jesus. I'm not going to spend all my time worrying about it. Some people have a problem with this, but not me. If someone has a problem, it's their problem. It's not my problem. Styx, do you think it was a coincidence that you mentioned Varg's channel and he almost immediately got taken down? I hope so. But the problem is, like, Varg was definitely skirting on the edge of TOS anyway. I don't think he should be banned. I don't think any of the people that have been banned from YouTube should be. And the fact is, like, he made a new channel and they like specifically targeted it and stupid shit. And now he has to use BitChute and stuff, which is fine because, I mean, he's got almost 10,000 people following him there, I think. Varg has been unfairly targeted. I don't have a problem with Varg, but no, I mean, I'm not responsible for YouTube deciding to bullseye his channel. If I had to guess, I'd say the fact that I did that, maybe they were worried about him growing faster, and so they're like, okay, this is it, and they decided to like raid him or something. But they probably did that anyway. He'd had strikes before. They do that to everyone. I'm under no illusion it doesn't happen to me. It's just I don't break any rules, so you know, they're wasting their time, I guess. I'll end this in a few minutes, by the way. Like, you know, it's going on an hour and stuff. You know, I've got other stuff to do. People asking if traps are gay. By the way, you know, for someone who doesn't understand, isn't that a male to female transsexual who hasn't fully transitioned? I don't even know exactly what the terminology is. Maybe. The thing is, it depends on whether they like males or females. They could also be bisexual. Or who's liking them if they're male or female. It really depends. And also, I don't care. I think I already answered that question. I can't remember exactly what appearance I was on. I think I was asked that. I can't remember. It was a while ago. The future of the EU. Ignominious despair and dissolution, thankfully. That's an easy one to answer. I've been predicting their end for a while, but as of October, Brexit, in the hard sense, probably goes through. Once it becomes official, that'll put strain. Certain other groups will probably push for their own exits from the EU. Think Trump has completely dropped the silencer ban? First, don't call it a silencer because that gets the liberals all in a tizzy. It's a suppressor. Doesn't silence it, it just makes it more quiet so you don't get hearing loss and so you don't bother your neighbors. Like, I should probably get a suppressor for my gun too or something like that because I don't want to bother anyone. And also it'd be nice to not have to wear, you know, protective hearing covers. Like certain weapons with the suppressor, they'd be quiet enough to not cause hearing damage. It doesn't silence it. I think he has given up the idea. Like he said, well, I'll consider it and take a look at it. It would be unpopular if he tried. Like Rand Paul would certainly stonewall him on that one. I don't think he could get it through the Senate. I think the Republicans would balk. Why don't all the creators band together to promote third parties and break the two-party system up? In the process, I would say it is happening. We do have the rise of a sort of techno-democracy of sorts, which is another reason why the powers that be, the corporate lame streamers, the busybodies, they want to crack down on the internet because they're terrified of actual regular people being the ones with political power. Oh, they're terrified of that. They'd rather keep it in the hands of billionaires. So that's, you know, one reason for censorship. It's mostly not political. It's mostly about money. But if you have political power, money goes hand in hand with that, and vice versa as well, I would say. What would you say about Quebec's Law 21, the secularism bill? I don't know anything about it. I don't keep up with America light politics as much as I probably should. Yeah. Get an air gun for backyard fun. Well, I do have a BB gun too. You know, just for fun. It's not just for fun too. Like if some small animal wanders into the garden, I don't need to take my actual functional firearm and go start blasting my tomato plants. I don't want to injure the plants in the process. I'm actually pretty good with a BB gun. I hadn't used one before, but after just a few tries, pretty good. If you can hit something that's 30, 40 feet away reliably, that's about what you need with a BB gun anyway. I mean, you're not going to attack a bear with it. It's not really a defensive weapon or anything like that. Do you like to hike? Yes, I do hike in the woods. If Trump were unable to run, who do you think should run in his place? Well, it'd be Mike Pence, unless he decided not to, in which case Ted Cruz maybe would be, at this point, ironically, the most viable of them. I wouldn't vote for the dude. But, I mean, he has sort of closed ranks more than a lot of the other. Let's give him credit. He did close ranks with Trump and sort of stands by him, but, you know, in his own roundabout opportunistic way. He's doing it for opportunistic reasons. He's not doing it because he's a deep-seated populist, oh, America first. No, he was a conservative, a sellout during the election. Oh, but Donald, you're going to hurt the third world people. You know, it's like no border walls allowed because reasons. It's really funny when people like Amash are against it, but they pretend it's for fiscal reasons. They're like, well, it'll cost too much. Doesn't bring economic benefits, so I don't support any government spending. Do you think a collapse will happen eventually? But not anytime soon. We're just entering the American century. We're about to enter the 20s all over again. What do you know about the 20s? Study your history. The 20s were a great time. History is repeating itself, by the way. You even see nostalgia for the 20s. You even see like Art Deco and stuff like that. Is like people are gaining a new appreciation for it, a la the 80s. Sort of neon light. Imagine the Empire State Building covered entirely in pink and blue neon, and that's basically what I see in the next decade. Works for me. I just hope that a fusion of 80s and 20s style and music comes back. 2 favorite decades, by the way. I used to like the 60s. When I was maybe more liberal when I was younger. It is fun. Yeah, little pink dresses and bullshit like that, I guess. Yeah. Somebody's saying, I miss 40s Germany. Didn't Germany get bombed to shit and, got subjugated? Yeah, there's your nostalgia there. I'll take 20s USA instead, thanks. Get the Great White Navy going and stuff. Great White Fleet. Oh, sorry. That might be taken as race historical lesson. That was just the Navy at the time, the building of our new fully blue water, fully functional First World Navy. I'm not saying Great White Fleet is in like the race involved, although they were mostly. Never mind. You got to be careful what you say at this point because it gets taken the wrong way and people assume that you're being like bigoted or something. They don't even want to know about their own history. They'd rather be fucking ignorant. I have nothing but reprehension for people that are like that. Bunch of soccer moms and pearl clutchers. 70s and 80s were great. The 70s, it's so depressing. You want to watch stuff from the 70s? 80s were great. Lots of explosions on movies and cool music. Like even the pop music was listenable and the metal was great. Give me some hair metal. I want to see that make a comeback. By the way, Ghost, which I posted a song the other night from the pinnacle to the pit. Looking at some of the new work, it sounds a little bit like, you remember when, I don't know. I don't know exactly what I compare it to. Maybe like Eddie Money or something like that. It's really good. It's like rock, but it's got that 80s, very synthetic, almost new wave-ish overtone. And it's very much like some of the hair metal that was there too, that was more synthetic. Like some of the less specifically just metal hair metal from like the mid 80s. That's what it sounded like. It was great. Can't remember which song was it? Dance Macabre, I think, was the one I was listening to. It was pretty good, actually, to tell the truth. Show your piece, Styx. No, that's not a good idea. I don't want people to know what firearm or firearms I own, because then if they show up trying to start trouble, they don't know what they can prepare for. We killed Boomer Disco and bell-bottom pants. I don't want bell-bottoms to come back. I wouldn't be wearing them. You can expect, generally speaking, people who see me in real life can attest to this, I'm sure. I dress the same way in real life. Like, for the most part, I'm gothing it up. Sometimes I'll wear like a Hawaiian shirt under the leather. It actually looks really good. It makes me look, I think, like a heroin junkie that's, barely recovering or something. I think they expect me to have like big-ass sunglasses on or something like that. Yeah, Ghost is a cool band because it sharply divides everyone into either they really like it or they fucking hate it and think that they're not metal. I would say if you don't like Ghost, then, do you consider like mid-70s, like Black Sabbath, like, early wave Black Sabbath to even be metal? Or do you think that it's too weak? Because that sort of vocal quality was more common at the time in early metal. So it has some doom overtones, obviously, too. Excellent. Good evening, people. Well, here it's 1 o'clock. It's funny because the computer it's recorded, the Alienware, for some reason it's stuck on Central Time. So that says it's noon, and then this one obviously has the Eastern. I don't even know. And so it tries to put that time zone actually on when I was creating the event as like, Central Time, GMT. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about, dude? I'm in Vermont. I'm not in, Ohio or whatever. I am not a Tool fan, to MythMav. I never liked Tool. I also don't like Nine Inch Nails, Korn, any of that sort of subgenre of rock / kind of metal industrial stuff. Marilyn Manson is the only thing that sort of gravitates towards that kind of music that I would like. Or some of Garbage's work. Garbage is good. That's a little bit different though. Ohio is best. Haha, you are stuck in Ohio. I know that joke. What do you think of the dark web? I never used it. Don't have a need to. It's like the Tor stuff. You know, why would I use Silk Road or something? At the time I was in college, I could get all the drugs I needed there. I didn't need Silk Road. What's the deal between you and Brittany Venti? I moderate her chat, and I happen to like her content and the musical, you know, sort of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what relation you mean. We're content creators. I happen to have, by the way, and then this was funny at the time, like when all the Roosh MGTOW people were trying to badmouth her, and it's like there was no reason to believe that she was skipping on her taxes. And I pointed that out, and she's like, well, fucking Styx is only popular because he makes multiple videos a day. I'm like, yeah, I make more content. So I tend to generate more views. What the fuck's wrong with that? Still don't think he should be censored. Amazon has mistreated that dude. I hope Amazon doesn't go further into censorship. Here, I edit a lot of books there too. So fucking, yeah. Skinny Puppy, I don't even know if I've ever heard any of their music. I think I heard one song and kind of liked it. Don't like 9 Inch Nails. Will you speak to Adam Green of No More News? Hadn't heard of him. I could look into it maybe. Since you have been defamed by BuzzFeed, funny story, what is your opinion on Sam Hyde? I think someone needs to stop that dude. You know, the weak should fear the strong. Getting out of hand. Now everybody is asking me about different music. Yes, I like Billy Idol. I like Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie's pretty cool. Didn't Rob Zombie do a bunch of movie stuff? I think his movie work I liked even more. Didn't he do House of Wax? That one with Paris Hilton getting like hit in the head with a metal rod and dying at one point? I think that wasn't that a Rob Zombie movie? Somebody has to tell me. I could have sworn that was. If I'm wrong, I might be wrong. Was House of Wax a Rob Zombie movie? Yes? Yeah. Because I liked that one. Sabaton is good. Marilyn Manson is good. Yes, I like most of the music that people are listing right now, which I guess that's a new meme now. Yes, I like most music. Genres that I don't like experimental, like avant-garde jazz. I don't really like country. Some of it's okay, if it's more folky. Some of the older country anyway, before it got pussified, before Garth Brooks, and then most rap, and reggae sort of music. There are exceptions though. Immortal Technique is good. The Ghetto Boys are good. Some of the weird mumble rap. There's that one song that's like literally nothing but talking about doing drugs and shit. I can't even remember the name. I thought that was funny. It's amusing, if not talented. System of a Down is good. G.G. Allen's good. The Grateful Dead is good. Styx is good. It's all good. All right, this is devolving now away from politics, I think, a little bit into a general Q&A session. As a recap for those that didn't catch the first 10 minutes where I actually talked about politics, the Democrats are crazy. Trump is doing well. I'll never get exactly why the Democrats won't even give him credit for trying to make peace in Korea. Like, you people pushed for this for decades too. You were like, love, peace, and meditation. They're just like us. Everyone's the same. Okay, well then fucking let's have peace. Why? You just don't want Trump to be the one to cause it. Just like they don't want Trump's initiative to cause gay rights to be legalized around Africa. It looks bad for them for pretending to be on the forefront of a fight that they were never on the forefront of. They were a bunch of pansies in that fight. They never did anything. They never even made a YouTube video about it until Obama said it was okay. He was a civil union Democrat when he ran for the Senate. They want to call Trump a homophobe. Dear God, they're fucking, you gotta be crazy. You gotta be kidding me, dude. Anyway, Vincent Price was good as well. Anyway, I am going to end this stream. because I can't take all the musical references. I'm sure the next time there's a stream, I just know that some people are gonna be shit posting musical questions. At this point, I just know that I can just tell by looking at chat at the moment. I can tell when these things are gonna happen. 99% of the time, the answer is yes. I like whatever music you're listing. But yeah, anyway, it's been really fun. I will probably do a few more live streams in the lead up to the next debate. I might make the next one a little bit more strictly political, maybe less of the Q&A and a little bit more of the politics. I kind of got off track here. I'm hyper caffeinated. I fucking can't help it. But I do have other things I have to do. I already watered the garden, but I need to do a little bit of weeding. I called my bank because, you know, I'm traveling overseas. I need to make sure my debit card would be good overseas, whatever. I've got other stuff to do. I just bought like furniture to be delivered, and you know, there's a lot of stuff to be done. I've also got to clean at some point. My rugs are filthy in here. It takes a while because I try not to wear my shoes into this room because it's the workspace, it's the office. But with all the chamomile drying and like the plants and shit like that, you still do get some leaf refuse. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off now. I hope you all had fun. There'll be more live streams to come out. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow. That'd be funny, just to start doing a fucking daily live stream in the middle of the day. The problem is that some days it's so hot. This room has a lot of southern window exposure. It gets extremely hot in here, which is why I'm in shorts right now, which is, you know, not very common. That's about all. If I can fucking get to the touchpad, I got to remember that I don't have the external mouse is for the other computer. That's about all. Peace out.